Trucks are getting more expensive by the day, at least that's what it seems like. Both of these are worth over $100,000 in Canadian currency and the way that they are equipped. So although they are six-figure trucks, do they essentially feel the same, or are they different enough from each other? Let's go for a drive and find out. Starting with the Ford F-150, there's a number of different engines that you can choose from. There's a few V6 Ecoboost engines, and there is also a V8 option. This particular truck has the hybrid 3.5-liter Ecoboost V6. It produces 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque. Because it's a hybrid, it means that it has really quick acceleration and instant torque from the electric motor. It feels just as fast as the F-150 Raptor, even though the Raptor has a little bit more horsepower. But this one, it is a little bit lighter and it has more torque. But of course, the main benefit to having the hybrid Powerboost engine is fuel economy. This truck with the 4x4 is rated for 11.2 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 10 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. Generally, when you accelerate from a stop in this truck, the engine is always running. You can accelerate from a stop using just electricity, but the acceleration rate is going to be very, very slow. When you will notice the truck turning off the engine and switching over to just electric driving is when you're maintaining a speed or just gently accelerating from, let's say, 60 kilometers an hour to 70 kilometers an hour. And that transition between the gas engine and the electric motor is seamless. You almost never ever feel the engine turning on. Now driving the Ram 1500, the big news for this 2025 model year is that the V8 engine is no longer available. You can only get it with the V6 or two different versions of this new twin-turbocharged inline-six engine. Now, having said that, the person that was supposedly responsible for killing off the V8 has now left Stellantis. The CEO, Tavares, I think his last name was. So perhaps in the next model year, or maybe the year after that, the V8 engine might make a comeback under the hood of this Ram 1500. But who knows? Getting back to this tungsten trim, it has the high output version of the 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline-six engine, so that means it produces 540 horsepower and 521 pound-feet of torque. Now this truck does weigh about 150 kilograms or about 350 pounds more than the F-150 with the hybrid powertrain. But even so, it feels very, very quick. This engine picks up right away and the 8-speed automatic transmission shifts gear quickly and seamlessly. Unfortunately, it doesn't make the same glorious noises as the old V8 used to make, and it's not as efficient as the V8. So this high output version of the inline-six with the 4x4 is rated for 15.7 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. The highway fuel economy I can believe because I've noticed my average fuel consumption slowly go down every time I drive this truck on a highway. But the city fuel economy, I think it's a little bit higher than that in the real world. Dynamics-wise, the Ford F-150 Powerboost Hybrid is just like any other truck. The steering is light for easy maneuverability, the suspension walks a fine line between comfort and payload resistance, and overall, it's an easy truck to drive. The turning circle is a bit wide, but that depends on how long the bed and wheelbase is. Like other trim levels, there are different drive modes to choose from, including Eco, Tow Haul, Sport, and Slippery, among many others, and the F-150 Hybrid is equipped with a locking rear differential. The air suspension of this Ram 1500 Tungsten limits enough body roll through corners to not make it feel as though the truck is driving on its door handles. Steering is just light enough at slow speeds for parking, but firms up when it's on the move with a decently direct feel. This particular trim of the Ram 1500 was not meant to go off the beaten path, but it is equipped with automatic 4x4, and the air suspension can raise the truck to an off-road 2 height. The hybrid engine in the F-150 is available in both 5.5-foot and 6.5-foot bed configurations. This demo truck had the former with the rated payload rating being 1,735 pounds. The tow rating of this specific truck is 10,800 pounds with the 3.73 rear differential, but it can be higher when properly equipped, up to 11,200 pounds with this hybrid powertrain. You can get it with a spray-on bed liner, a drop-in bed liner, or no bed liner at all. There are tie-down points in each corner, with more being available through the accessories catalog. There are bed lights on either side, and on the left side you'll find the Pro Power on board. This provides you with up to 7.2 kilowatts of power and multiple power outlets. The tailgate is power operated on this trim for both up and down functionality, and has the new smaller barn door style opening in the middle. In the crew cab short bed configuration with 4x4, the 2025 Ram 1500 Tungsten is rated to carry 1,170 pounds of payload and tow up to 9,920 pounds. The limited trim of the Ram 1500 can carry a higher payload but cannot tow as much as this Tungsten trim with the high output version of the inline-6 engine. The bed comes in either 5'7" or 6'4" lengths and has the Ram boxes on either side. These do take up some of the bed area, but are great for storing tools as they are lockable. The tailgate on this demo vehicle is not the barn door design and is instead a simple power-operated tailgate. There is a small deployable step on the left side of the bumper for easier access into or out of the bed. Of the two trucks, the 2025 Ram 1500 Tungsten has the better ride thanks to the air suspension. It doesn't quite glide over bumps like the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, but among other truck competitors, this easily has the best ride. The ride of the Ford F-150 Powerboost is not bad per se, but it can feel a bit more jittery over small bumps than the ride of the Ram 1500. As you would expect with both of these being large pickup trucks, there is a ton of space inside of them. For my 6'4" height, I have absolutely no issues up here in the front seats or in the back seats. Behind my tall driving position, there's plenty of leg space and my hair is nowhere near brushing the headliner. You can also lift up the back seats of this F-150 to reveal a small storage space. That storage bin is also collapsible, so you can just fold it down if you don't need it. The driving position is really high up, so I have a commanding view over the road ahead. The A-pillars are just a little bit on the thick side, but then they do need to be on pickup trucks. However, visibility out the front, side, blind zones, and even out the back is more than adequate. The design of the F-150 is straightforward and it is very simple to use all of the controls. You have physical climate controls and also physical buttons for the heated or ventilated seats. The larger infotainment touchscreen as well as the digital driver display are now standard across all trim levels of the F-150. This particular F-150 is the King Ranch trim, so it has leather across the dashboard, door panels, obviously the seats, the steering wheel, and the center armrest. It also has a nice looking copper trim on the center console and a little bit across the dashboard. However, the lower portions of this cabin are made up of hard, scratchy plastic, like the lower portion of the center console or the lower portion of the door panels. But overall, the interior of this F-150 is straightforward, functional, and very spacious. Now, let's go check out that Ram. The interior of this Ram 1500 feels a little bit more airy than the one in the F-150, and that's because the leather is in a brighter color and you get a much brighter color headliner. So light just bounces off of these brighter surfaces. But in terms of interior space, pretty much the same as in the F-150, maybe just a little bit bigger. For my 6'4" height up here in the front seats, plenty of leg space and plenty of headroom. In the back seats, same story, very spacious for my above average height sitting behind my tall driving position. But the difference between this Ram and the F-150 is that those seats can recline, albeit a little bit, but they still recline. Those back seats are also heated and ventilated, which is something that you don't get in the F-150. Additionally, they can fold up 60/40, but the storage bin underneath the seats is not quite as big as the one in the F-150 and it doesn't collapse. Back here in the front, the interior feels a little bit more luxurious than the one in the F-150. I'm not sure why it feels this way exactly. Maybe it's because of the different design, but it uses the same material. So there's leather across the dashboard, door panels, center console, armrest, seats of course, and the steering wheel. And this leather is quite soft. The armrest is nicely padded. The leather on the center console feels nice at touch, as does the one on the dashboard. Of course, you can't sit inside this Ram 1500 without noticing that large tablet-style infotainment touchscreen. It runs Uconnect 5 infotainment system, and for the most part, I haven't really had any issues in navigating around this infotainment system. The minor issue that I've had is with my phone not really connecting and also disconnecting a few times here and there while driving the Ram 1500. But other than that, the actual functionality of this infotainment system is just fine. It is slightly customizable, so you can have different widgets on the home screen and also rearrange different pages of the infotainment system. And although it does have climate controls embedded into this infotainment touchscreen, Ram has kept a few physical buttons flanking either side. So you have the bare essentials such as fan speed, climate temperature, front and rear defrosters, as well as volume and tuning knobs. Also on this particular tungsten trim, the front passenger also has a screen in front of them. That small screen lets them input a navigation destination and then send it to the main screen, or they can change the radio stations, or they can watch movies via the HDMI cables or USB cables on the center console. However, it's not distracting for the driver because from my perspective, I can't actually see it even when it's on. It's only visible from the perspective of the passenger seat. So all in all, this Ram 1500, at least in the tungsten trim, has a very spacious and luxurious feeling cabin. The 2025 Ram 1500 Tungsten is the most expensive Ram truck that is on sale. It has a starting price of around $104,000 Canadian. There aren't too many packages and options to add onto it, as this demo vehicle came equipped at a price of just over $109,000 Canadian. The 2025 Ford F-150 King Ranch is not the top spec trim of this truck. That would be the Platinum. Even so, it has a starting price of $94,940 Canadian. With a few options, this demo vehicle had an as-tested price just shy of $101,000 Canadian. For all that money, both trucks are not sparsely equipped. They have the usual luxury features such as leather upholstery, heated and ventilated front seats, also massaging in the Ram, heated rear seats, also ventilated in the Ram, a head-up display, a panoramic sunroof, surround view cameras, power running boards, big touchscreens, and wireless phone charging pads to name just a few. The F-150 though has a bit of a leg up on the Ram 1500 with its Blue Cruise system. It allows for hands-free driving on most highways throughout Canada and the United States. The truck comes with a 1-year subscription to the service here in Canada, but after that, you do have to pay for it if you want it. The Ram 1500 has a new hands-free system as well, but I found that the hands-free portion of it doesn't work quite as often as the Blue Cruise system. Most of the time, it required me to have at least one hand on the steering wheel, but it still had steering input to keep the truck centered in the lane. So although these two are six-figure trucks, they feel very different. The Ford is much more efficient thanks to that hybrid powertrain and is more capable in this configuration. The Ram, on the other hand, is a quick truck thanks to that new inline-six engine, and it still is the definitive luxury truck if you're into that sort of thing. In the meantime, if you would like to know more about either of these two trucks, I have a more detailed written review of them over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or most likely it'll be an SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I see you in the next one.